Welcome back to the Chelsea Chronicle. After that painful 2-1 defeat at Old Trafford, we've got to ask, what must Enzo Maresca change before Chelsea's home test against Brighton? We're going to be digging into the mistakes against Manchester United, the gamble taken on Cole Palmer's fitness, defensive frailties, and where Maresca needs to act now. I'm joined by James Shearman. How are you doing, my friend?
Not so good this time, mate. How are you?
It's not quite as positive a start as we maybe had before. Looking back at the United game, it was just a mess from minute 4 to minute 90. I mean, you go through the first half. Robert Sánchez gets himself sent off with a crazy attempt at a tackle block. I'm not sure what he was trying to do. The manager brings off two players straight away, then has to take off Cole Palmer later. Could that have got any worse for Chelsea, especially in the first half?
No, I don't think so. It was an absolute nightmare start, wasn't it? I mean, Robert Sanchez, yeah, we keep saying almost every week he's always likely to have a run of strong performances, but you just know any minute now he's just going to commit an absolutely stupid mistake, and that's what he did against United. Completely threw the game, really. It would have been much better. Maresca said it himself. If he'd just let Mbuemo score, that would have been a much better solution than taking him out and getting the red card. So yeah, absolute nightmare. And then you've got to point the finger at Maresca and say, what was he doing with those subs? I mean, I completely understand taking Estevao off. You know, someone had to come off in that situation, but taking Neto off as well. You know, with 10 men, you're always going to be relying on a counter attack and having no pace to counter attack with. I thought that was a huge mistake. And then yeah, Palmer getting injured as well. It could be re-injuring his groin. That was an absolute nightmare as well. Yeah, that was the final nail in the coffin, really. And yeah, terrible first half from us for sure.
Do you think it would have made more sense for Maresca? Because he said after the game he knew Palmer was struggling. I didn't know if he was going to play that game. He knew he'd been struggling because he'd missed two and a half games before this one. Would it have made more sense just to bite the bullet and take him off instead of Neto at the fifth, sixth minute mark when the red card came in, and then you can at least keep someone to play with João Pedro for the rest of the 90 because he was completely isolated. I think he did quite well on his own up there, but there was nothing he could really do.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I hadn't even thought about that myself, taking Palmer off. But I suppose if you're starting him, then I suppose that's because you've got the confidence that he could last sort of 60, 70 minutes. So I understand why he didn't take Palmer off. Obviously, in hindsight, that would have been the right thing to do. But he wasn't to know that. The big thing for me was why we took both wingers off. That I just didn't understand that at all. One of them, sure, you've got to. But to then take the other off and bring on another centre back just didn't make any sense to me. And I know it's already going to be difficult with 10 men, but when you've got nothing going forward, you're only ever going to be defending. So yeah, that didn't make sense at all. And like you say, João Pedro actually did very well, considering every time he got the ball, he was surrounded by 4 or 5 United players, and half the time he managed to keep it. So yeah, he was the only shining light, really. But yeah, Maresca got it completely wrong.
I think all the doom and gloom that came in the first half, Casemiro got himself sent off just before half time, sort of giving us a little like glimmer of hope for that game. Maresca's second half subs were bringing on Malagusto and Tyreek George, leaving Garnacho and Gittins on the bench, who didn't come on at all. What did you make of that decision?
Yeah, the only way United were ever going to drop points in that game after they went 2-0 up is if someone was silly enough to get sent off. And thankfully, Casemiro came to the rescue. And, you know, I was looking around thinking, do you know what? We've got a chance here all of a sudden because 10 on 10, we are the better team of the two, you would say. So I really did think we could get back into it. But yeah, the subs were so strange. We still only had one shot on target in the whole game, I think. It was absolutely terrible, even in the second half. When it was even numbers on both sides. And yeah, bringing on Tyree George just makes absolutely no sense when you think he was like 10 minutes away from going to Fulham on deadline day. Clearly, Chelsea were willing to let him go. And then you've got two players on the bench who've cost, you know, a combined 80, 90 million pounds in Garnacho and Gittins. And somehow George is ahead of them in the pecking order. That must be really concerning for them. And I said in our preview, I really wanted Garnacho to play, not only because I quite like him as a player, but also because there'd be no one on that pitch more motivated to score against Man United than him. So yeah, I thought it was really strange that he didn't come on, and Mark Guiu as well. What must he be thinking after being recalled from Sunderland on loan? you're thinking without Delap, he's our only sort of physical presence up top. Surely he's going to get some minutes, and he didn't either. So yeah, to bring Sorry George on was a real waste of a substitution. Really, I just don't think he's good enough for us. And then yeah, Malo Gusto. I mean, he did okay, but he's never going to win the game for you. So yeah, completely absurd substitutions from Maresca there.
Yeah, Malo Gusto coming on to play essentially on the left wing for the last 10 minutes didn't scream a team that's going to get back into it. But he was on the left because Reece James played his first full 90 in who knows how long now. I thought he had a really good game. He played a lot more of the wing back role we'd seen when he was being considered one of the best in the world sort of 3-4 years ago. And some of the delivery put in tough conditions. There was puddles bouncing off when the ball was bouncing. It wasn't easy to add some real quality to that game. But I thought he had a really decent game, which is a real positive sign for Chelsea out of that nightmare of a game.
Yeah, too right. Reece James is arguably our best player, perhaps besides Cole Palmer. So yeah, anytime he can stay available for us, it is brilliant. Like you say, he's so versatile. You know, he can stay as that sort of outside centre back. We know he can come into midfield. He's been doing that for a while under Maresca. And to see that he can still do that up and down wing back role is yeah, that's another small positive, I suppose, from the game.
So we're recording this before the EFL Cup tie against Lincoln, where you'd expect Maresca to do a bit of rotation. We don't know if he is going to play, but you'd expect Josh Acheampong to start that game. He started the first Premier League game of the season, and then since then has been nowhere to be seen, really. And you look at the defensive frailties that have been on show, especially against United and Brentford. They were really struggling with the physical threat of it all. How's he not been given more of a chance this season after signing that long-term deal last year?
Yeah, exactly. We must have, I don't know whether we would have promised him game time or not, but we must have, delivered a plan for his future to get him to commit to, a number of years with the club. And to see that he's had a few games here and there and done well in those and then not got the opportunities on the back of that really doesn't make sense to me. He'll be thinking, can I break into the Premier League or the Champions League squad? And with the way our current centre-backs are performing, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't get into that team at the moment. Once again, the centre-backs let us down against Manchester United. Wesley Fofana comes in, and Tosin and Trev, none of them covered themselves in glory in that game.
No, agreed. Looking forward to Brighton then. Not going to be a must-win game, but it's getting towards the point where you need to put an end to a pretty poor run of form across all competitions now. It's 3 games without a win in a row. Do you think we'll have enough to win the game if Cole Palmer doesn't start? I mean, this issue seems to be pretty ongoing now. It's not going to get healed in the next 6 days to be completely ready to go. But would you be looking to risk him, or can we win the game without him on the pitch?
No, I think you've got to have the long-term view, and you have to rest him even if he thinks he's ready to go. Unfortunately, I think you're already looking at a situation where the goal in the league is to qualify for the Champions League again. It already feels like the title is probably too far gone. So you're then saying, okay, can we be a cup team? Can we pinch a domestic cup or even go far in the Champions League? And obviously most of that takes place, in 2026. So yeah, I would rest Palmer and make sure that he's fully fit when he does return. Obviously, it seems like when he played against Bayern, he wasn't 100% fit if he's re-injured that groin. So I would leave him out. And then, do we have enough to beat Brighton without him? Of course we do. Even without Palmer, I think if you lined up the two sides, you'd still probably say ours is stronger, especially with Pedro, who we signed from them in the summer. But will we have enough is another question, and that's the concern at the moment. After three games without a win, I am losing confidence in this side quite quickly.
If you were to put together your front four to start that game, obviously, if you're looking for a replacement for Palmer, Buonanotte will be playing as his parent team, so he won't be available for selection. Who would you be looking to bring in to replace Palmer and then play around him in that front four?
Yeah, so I'd like to see Guiu start against Brighton. He couldn't play against Lincoln in the week because he was cup-tied from his game at Sunderland. So yeah, I'd like to see him start front, offer something different in that number 9 position, and then João Pedro can drop a little bit deeper into the number 10. He doesn't get to do that when Palmer's available, but with Palmer not available, probably he should play in that position. That's probably his preferred position, despite how well he's been playing up front. And then I'd have Estevao and Neto on the flanks. They only played, 6 or 7 minutes against Man United, so they can have no complaints that they're not rested enough. So Yeah, that would be my front four. Just Guiu coming in for Palmer against Brighton.
Looking at the two games we played against Brighton within about a week last season, that were sort of one of the low points of the season, really. Two pretty convincing defeats within about 6 days of each other. What do we need to be doing differently from those games that will mean we can get 3 points at Stamford Bridge this time round?
Yeah, I like Brighton as a team. I rate their manager quite highly, and I actually thought they were outside contenders to finish in the top six. So they've started slowly this season, but you can't take them lightly. You saw against Spurs, they went 2-0 up, and I know they threw it away at the end, but they're a strong team, a lot of pace. Matoma on the wing is obviously a very good player. I said we should have signed him this summer, and then they've got lots of other players who can produce that moment of magic. You saw Ayari scored 2 against Tottenham at the weekend. So they've got lots of quality players. To let Enciso and Buonanotte go in one window tells you that they must have a lot of quality in attacking areas already. So yeah, have to be on our top form defensively, which we haven't been lately. So yeah, I think it's just the defensive mistakes, really. I think we have what it takes to dominate the ball and to create a lot of chances in that game, even without Palmer. But can you be solid at the back? Can you avoid those defensive errors? If they score, a screamer, okay, you can hold your hands up, but can we not give them a goal like we've been doing in our recent games? And it'll be interesting to see. Jorgensen, I assume, will start in goal. Really flattered to deceive against Man United. That for Casemiro's goal, the ball must have been in the air for about half an hour, and he still didn't fancy coming to claim it. So yeah, it'll be a big test for him, and I would look to the defence as what we will need to improve against Brighton.
No, agree completely. Let's move on to the most successful part of the show for us, which is predicting the scoreline. I think we're both on none so far, and probably both on none for first goal scorers. What do you reckon is going to happen against Brighton on Saturday?
Yeah, I'd love to say we'll go and thrash them on the back of a tough week, but I'm actually going to go for a draw. I was quite impressed with Brighton against Spurs, and Chelsea, I think, will be low on confidence. Hopefully, coming off a huge win against Lincoln, we'll see about that. But yeah, I think it'll be a very tough fixture against Brighton. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But I'm going to pick João Pedro to score against his former team, and I'm sure he'll rile up those fans with his celebration that he's been doing recently.
That'd be nice to see. I'm going to lean slightly on the more positive side, just because we've now got a week where hopefully none of the big names are going to be playing twice in a week. With the Lincoln game, you'd think there's going to be a lot of rotation in that one. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Chelsea, and I think it'll be Enzo Fernandez to score first. I think he'll pop up with something, because I still don't think his performances have been at a real top level so far this season, but he has been popping up with goals and assists, which is a really important thing to bring if things aren't going too well for you across the 90 minutes. So I'm going to go for him to score first. But that'll be it for us. Let us know in the comments, what change will Maresca have to make for us to beat Brighton, whether it be formation, personnel, approach. You let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to keep notified of all of our content. And we'll see you next week. Up the Chelsea.